Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It is May and my friends at Keystone Canned Meats have informed me that it's National Beef Month. They have really enjoyed the videos that we've done on this channel featuring the Keystone Canned Meats and doing shelf-stable Prepper's Pantry cooking. And this time, since it's Beef Month, we're doing ground beef. That's right, it's the Keystone canned ground beef. We're gonna give this one a try and see what I can make using off-grid cooking methods and nothing but shelf-stable ingredients. Nothing that requires any refrigeration, anything like that. And we've got a couple of really cool ingredients lined up for this one. So I'm not gonna try to surprise y'all with the recipe. If you read the title, you already know we're making shepherd's pie. Actually, making cottage pie. Shepherd's pie would have lamb in it. And as far as I know, Keystone doesn't do ground lamb. So we're using ground beef. We're gonna make a cottage pie. This is a super hearty recipe. It's a delicious recipe. And in making this, we're also gonna get to feature an item I've never used for cooking on this channel. That's gonna be coming up in a few minutes. But before we go any further, let's get into everything that we're gonna need to make this recipe. Of course, we are going to start with our Keystone ground beef. The Keystone ground beef has a pretty good amount of broth in it. But we're gonna bring along an extra can of broth just in case there's not enough for what we need. Got some minced onion. Of course, we have our powdered Wash Your Sister sauce. I have a package of dehydrated peas and carrots that I made by just putting them in my dehydrator. I know this is a Harvest Right bag. I did not freeze dry these. I put them in my dehydrator. I just bought a bag of frozen peas and carrots, ran them through the dehydrator, and made shelf-stable peas and carrots. For our seasonings, we're going to have rosemary, black pepper, thyme, garlic, of course, salt. We have some freeze-dried parsley. And we have a package of instant mashed potatoes. Now, potatoes are relatively shelf-stable, but I don't have a place to put potatoes to keep them fresh. So we're just going to use the Idahoan Baby Reds mashed potatoes. And to finish this all out and give it some extra flavor, we've got our powdered sour cream. I've got some powdered butter from the Amish store in Branson, Missouri. And because I like my potatoes cheesy, we have the powdered cheddar cheese from Hoosier Hill Farm. Haven't gotten to use this stuff yet, so I'm really looking forward to testing it out in this recipe. Here we have it. There's all of our ingredients that we need to make our shepherd's pie. So let's move this stuff to the side. Let's get started cooking. Ooh, that smells really good. Let's get all of this in here. I'm going to start by keeping all of the broth and all of the fat in here with this while we start to separate and cook up this ground beef. Get this all broken down. The extra broth is going to help us to get the ground beef completely separated. This is ground beef that's just put into a can and then pressure cooked until it's done. It's not going to be as separated coming out as ground beef that you prepare yourself. So we're going to use that broth to help. It's kind of a boiling process like Taco Bell does with their taco meat. Just makes it break down a little finer. Okay, let's get that warming up. Now remember, this beef, when it goes into the can, only has 3 ingredients. It has the beef, sea salt, and water. So we don't have to worry so much about throwing any salt in this right now because I think it's going to be sufficient for what we need. And if we have to add a little extra flavor later, we'll do that. It's doing a really good job of separating. All right, that's heating up pretty good. I want to reach in here and get a bite of this because I want to try the ground beef just as it is, straight out of the can, and heat it up a little bit. I think that's the only way to really get a true reflection of how good or bad this stuff might be. It smells really good. Once again, it is a very natural beef smell. It really doesn't even smell like canned meat at this point. Let's give that a taste. Wow, that is surprisingly good. Not a lot of flavor because once again, it's just salted, but it's got a decent amount of salt in it without being too much. All right, so now we need to move along. We need to separate out some of this broth because I want to make sure that we can brown this meat up so that we can bring in that extra little element of flavor from browning the meat. So we got to get some of that broth off of there, but we're going to keep it because we're going to put it back in there in a little bit. Got a little bit of our ground beef coming out with it, but that's okay. It's all going back to the same place. Now we're just going to cook this like this long enough to get it browned up just a little bit. While we do that, let's add in some of our seasoning. Black pepper. And our garlic. Ooh, that's already starting to smell really, really good. Let's get some onions in there. Let those start waking up. Once again, I don't really use a recipe. I just kind of add what I think is going to work for my personal taste. Oh, that smells incredible. Now I'm using this little K&S One Touch portable gas range to do this on. You can do this with any kind of cooking setup. Of course, we're just kind of playing along with the scenario that maybe we've got a power outage or something. So if you just want to use this recipe in your regular kitchen, feel free. It's going to work out the same way. That is browning up beautifully. Look at that. All right, I think we've got it browned up enough. That's going to give us a better texture and a better flavor, but we also don't want to dry it out too much. So let's add our stock back in. And I don't think we're going to need any more stock than we've already got. I think I'm just going to add a little bit of water into that. Let's add a little bit of water in here. Let's turn our heat down just a hair. Now I do realize I forgot one ingredient. A lot of these recipes call for tomato paste, and since I don't have any tubes of shelf-stable tomato paste, we're just going to throw in a couple of packs of fast food ketchup. I know, it might be sacrilege to some people, but it's going to give us the same effect. It's just going to make it a little sweeter than just using tomato paste. All right, let's get some more of our seasonings in. Let's throw in our thyme. This is what's going to give us the flavor that you typically kind of imagine when it comes to things like shepherd's pie. Let's get our rosemary in there. I'm not going to use a lot of rosemary. That's not one of my favorite seasonings, but it is called for this recipe. Parsley, our powdered wash your sister sauce. That's really going to wake up that flavor. The smell in here right now is incredible. This is going to be so good. So while these spices are waking up, we're going to get our peas and carrots in there so they can be rehydrating. This may require to add a little bit more water in here. Now I know that doesn't look like a lot that I just put in there, but this was a very large bag. So these things are going to plump up a little bit, and I don't want to overdo it. Let's add just a little bit more water in that to help the peas and carrots wake up. All right, so while that's cooking down a little bit, that gives me a chance to tell you guys about something really cool. When the folks at Keystone reached out to me about it being National Beef Month, they also mentioned that they are doing a giveaway right now. If you go down in the description box below, there'll be a link for you to click and go to their website so that you can sign up for the giveaway to win a year's worth of Keystone canned meats. That's a lot of meat, folks. That's super exciting. I don't know if I can sign up for it or not, but I might give it a shot. But be sure and go and check that out. And while you're there, tell them that Dad Budget Adventures sent you. Oh yeah, and if you're liking this content, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell to be made aware of all upcoming videos. And as always, feed the algorithm. I'm feeding y'all's appetites right now. Feed the algorithm by leaving a comment. Tell me what you think about this recipe or Keystone meats. And also, I'm gonna try to come back next week with another beef recipe video. I got no idea what I'm gonna do. I need some help. Give me a challenge. Give me a recipe that you guys think I can build using nothing but shelf-stable items. Don't throw something ridiculous out there just to see if I can do it. Give me some possibilities of a recipe you'd like to see so that if you had to feed your family in a blackout, you could do it. Drop me a suggestion. Tell me all about it. This stuff smells absolutely amazing. I'm gonna get a bite and see how it's going because a good chef never serves anything without tasting it first. I also wanted to get a little bit of the peas and carrots in there too because I wanna make sure they are reconstituting the way they need to. Let's see how our balance of seasoning is. The peas and carrots have a little ways to go, but that flavor, that's on point. That is gonna be amazing. We're gonna let this cook just a little while longer and then we're gonna move on to the next step. All right, our meat mix is cooked up and ready to go on to the next phase. For that, we're gonna pour it into a baking dish, and then we gotta whip up our potatoes. We're gonna use our good old-fashioned Corningware. Let's get this poured up. Look how amazing this looks. My mouth is watering so bad right now. All right, we're gonna set this aside so we can mix up our potatoes and get ready to move on to the next step. And there's no sense messing up another pot, so we're just gonna use this one. So if you're one of those people that doesn't like your foods to mix, well, you might wanna look away. Let's get our potatoes in there. And into our potatoes, we're going to add some of our butter sprinkles, just for a little extra flavor. We're gonna add some of our sour cream powder, because what goes better with mashed potatoes than sour cream? And to make sure it's plenty cheesy, we're gonna add our cheddar cheese powder. Let's get a bunch of that in there. All right, let's add our hot water in there. Let's mix that up. And before we add the potatoes on top of the mix, let's get a taste of those and see how they are. They smell so buttery. All right, let's get a bite of that. I don't have to add any other seasoning in there. Those are perfect. Let's scoop this out on top. We want to completely cover the top of our meat mixture. There we go. All right, so a lot of y'all are probably watching this video going, but we're not done. Because what's supposed to happen next is we're supposed to bake that mix, right? We're supposed to get a nice little crust on top of the potatoes. Well, we are not done. But how are we gonna bake in a blackout? Well, there just so happens to be a great technology that's been around since 1923. If you don't have a camp oven by now, you're the one that's missing out because it's been around for a while. What we're gonna use is the Coleman camp oven. You guys have never seen one of these. They are absolutely the coolest thing. I've never had a chance to use one in one of my videos, and I was making absolutely sure that in this video, we were gonna feature this thing. Because if you've never even heard of it, you gotta see this. Let's set it up. And it's just as simple as that. We just gotta fire it up and let it start heating up. We got a thermometer right here that lets us know how hot our oven is. We can adjust the amount of fuel we give it to heat it up or cool it down. And then once everything is ready to go, we just put our food in there and let it bake. All right, let's let this thing come up to temperature and let's get cooking. Total, it took us just a little over 5 minutes to get all the way to 350 degrees. So now let's get our cottage pie in there so that it can be baking. So as the baking process gets started, we don't want to go anywhere for a little bit because I need to be able to dial the gas up and back a little bit so that we can get exactly to where we can hover at about 350 degrees. We don't want it to run too hot and end up burning our food. We don't want it to burn too cold and take forever. So let's hang out here for just a few minutes, dial it in a little bit, and then let's let it bake until it's done. And then let's get to eating. Look at that. Look how beautiful it is. Listen to this. There it is. Homemade shepherd's pie using nothing but off-grid cooking methods and shelf-stable items. And Keystone canned meat. So the only thing left to do now is dig into it. So let's do that. We got a little paper bowl there because we don't want to wash dishes in a blackout. Let's get us a big old helping. Look at that. Look how gorgeous. All right, nothing to it but to do it, as they say. Let's give this a try. It smells amazing. This right here, the smell alone is enough to drive your family crazy. The wife came in while I was recording this, and she is so ready to try it. All right, let's give that a taste. Here we go. Let's cool it off a bit. Screaming hot. Let's give that a taste. The butteriness and cheesiness of those potatoes is amazing. The meat mixture is perfectly seasoned. The vegetables reconstituted just like you want them to. Oh, I gotta get another bite. That is absolutely delicious. It's rich, it's decadent. It is amazing. If I just handed this to you, you couldn't tell me that that's canned meat that we started that recipe with. That is an absolute banger of a meal right there. I think the only thing we could do to kick it up a little bit is throw a little hot sauce on there. Add a little heat to the fire. There we go. It smells really good with the hot sauce. Here we go. That is outstanding. Highly recommend trying that. But there it is, my shelf-stable Prepper's Pantry recipe for shepherd's pie. By the way, I forgot to mention at the beginning of this video, today's video is dropping on Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all you moms out there. Y'all have an incredibly difficult job, and yet every day you still show up. If you enjoyed this content and you want to see more of it, please tell me all about it. Leave a comment down below. Share this video with your friends. Share it with whatever groups you're part of on social media, what have you. The channel is growing again, but it's very slow, and I'd love to see it take off again like it did a while back. We got more freeze-drying content coming up. We've got more dehydrating content coming up, and of course, homemade MREs are coming back your way. Remember, next week we're going to try to do another beef recipe with some more of that Keystone beef. So if you've got an idea for that, throw it at me. But until then, prepare for the world that you live in, not the one you wish existed. We'll see you around.